Hi, this is Eric Martin with Board Game Geek. I'm here today looking at ReCURRRing, a card game by Team Cyan, which is a designer-publisher collective in Japan that publishes very artistic-looking games that are probably meant to look as good as when they're up on your shelf as they are when they are on the table. We do a lot of work to get everything just right here with all-wood two-player games that are incredibly expensive for a game, but not for what they actually consist of, with these painted wooden blocks, which feel great when you play, but you're not going to see them distributed on a wide scale, just given how they're created. Now, what is this? ReCURRRing is a shedding game in which you are trying to get rid of all the cards in your hand. Now, this is a familiar concept for anyone who's played games, and you will recognize many things as you hear about the game, but not recognize others. Now, the deck consists of cards numbered 1 to 9, along with many ers. And these are considered the lowest ranked card, but the actual cards in the game will depend on the number of players. With 3 players, you take out the 8 and 9s. With 4, you take out the 9s. You use a certain number of R's, so the cards can be dealt out evenly among all the players. Now, R is the worst card. The best card is the 1. And there's only one 1, and there's 2 2s and 3 3s and so on up to 9 9s, and use some number of R's. Now you're going to shuffle these cards, deal them out evenly among all the players, and whoever has the 1 starts. Now, you don't have to play the 1. You can play any single card that you want onto the table. So let's say I play a 7. Okay. The next player can play any better single card, so numbered 1 to 6, or any pair of cards. So if they play a 6, great, they've beaten the 7. However, they don't just get to put down the 6. They have to take the 7 and put it back in their hand. So I'm currently winning this round, but I just made my hand worse. What's interesting is ReCURRRing is very similar in some ways to one of my favorite games of all time, Abluxen, by Wolfgang Kramer and Michael Kiesling. And that is a shedding game as well, in which players are trying to put together sets of cards and beat other people down with points. I want to play better sets of cards than other people, and when I do, I can take their cards in the hand if I think I'm going to play them myself, or I can force them to pick them up, or they throw them away and they get some other stuff that they might not want. All right? You're trying to get people all the time and outplay them, and you are always competing on equal sets all the time. If I put down a pair, people can only put down pairs. If I put down 3 of a kind, they put down 3 of a kind, and so on. And it's a big part of the game is sort of figuring out what you think people have and watching what they pick up and then trying to overplay them, sucking up their cards and then reusing them against them. Now, ReCURRRing has some elements of that, but it's a little trickier and a little harder to get everything that's going on because of this restriction on what you can play. As I mentioned, you can only play a single card to start, but you can beat it with a better single card or with a pair. So with the 6s, maybe the next player beats it with a pair of ers. They take that 6 and put it in their hand. Now, they've shrunk their hand by 1 card, but are they actually closer to victory? Are they doing better by getting 2 R's down instead of replacing with 1 6? It's hard to say. Depends on what happens in the game. Maybe those 2 R's are beaten by 2 8s, and you continue, and maybe someone has 3 5s and no one beats 3 5s for some reason. Okay, well, the 3 5s win. Whoever played them puts them in front of them, and they will score 1 point for each of those cards. Those are placed face up so everyone knows what's out of play, and then I lead with some other single card. And again, we continue. This can be beaten by a better single card or a pair. Once you have a pair on the table, it can be beaten by 3 of a kind, and so on, until someone actually, when they play their cards, if they would pick something up but they have no cards in hand, that signals the end of the round. You take those cards that they beat, put them face down. You continue once around the table to see if anyone beats these. If not, well, then I'm going to score the things that I place face up, and everyone ends. That's it. R's that you collect are worth nothing unless you're the player who goes out. Then they're worth 1 point. All the other cards you collect are 1 point. Cards in hand are worthless. Just a reminder of your forgotten dreams. and you play multiple rounds, and whoever has the most points after 3 rounds wins. There's an overview of recurring, which is really hard to figure out. When I first taught this game, I will confess to completely blowing it multiple times in a game with 5 players where I had to keep adding the rules that I had forgotten. There's not much to the game, and I just explained it to you. But as with many Japanese games, it's hard to compile the rules in your head and figure out how things actually work until you put them on the table and see them in action. And you reread the rules again, and you're like, oh, wait, that's right. When we collect cards, they got to face up so we see what's there. Okay, if you pass for the round because you don't want to play or you can't play, then you put your hand on the table. The rules are very specific about this. I guess it's just a Japanese custom that I can look around and I see who's in or out of the round immediately. I don't have to remember a thing. You put your hand on that table, let me watch it. So we went through this and kept adding things in, and it was bizarre. It was really hard to figure out what you're trying to do because, again, you're worsening your hand each time you go. But you see what people pick up, and then maybe you can use it. Maybe you use that knowledge against them. I want to pick up a pair of 8s because I've got 2 other 8s in my hand. I got 4 8s, which is possibly going to be a strong play. However, I can only play those 4 8s if someone else has already played a 3 of a kind, or 4 R's or 4 9s, because then I can beat those. But if people just play singletons and pairs and it gets to me, and I've got 4 8s in my hand and nothing else, well, I have to split that up to beat something, and then I'm left with other stuff, and I'm picking up other things that don't go with what I have. So it's this weird flow of cards in and out of the game. And of course, that's where you get the name recurring from, because that's what the cards are doing, and they only go out of play once someone actually wins the round with them. So the cards kind of shift around from hand to hand, and then they pile up, and eventually it's going to be like 7 R's, and they go down, and no one can beat that because other things have gone out. But it takes a while to figure out what's actually going on and whether that's happening or not. So it worked out a lot better when I played again with 3 players. I was able to explain easily, and with fewer players, I was able to remember better what everyone was picking up and maybe what they had left, what I'd seen before. And you keep track of all those cards. And that helps a lot when you're trying to figure out what you can play and play against, and whether you're going to be beat, and blah, 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 and all this going on. As you can tell, I'm a little enamored with the game. It's a great concept with a simple deck of cards that will just have your head spinning. So, recurring.